Lovely. Okay, so thank you very much for coming to this webinar. So it's Striding Through Menopause, all about running and nutrition. And we'll start off just by letting you know what to expect. So it's probably going to be about 45 minutes, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But the main areas I'm going to look at are sort of body changes in menopause. So why does changes in the body happen? The main section is all going to be about nutrition for a healthy menopause and happy running. And then I'll just finish off briefly just about how I can help you. So first off, who am I? So my name's Nicola Cowie. I go by the name of Coach Nicola. I'm a running coach, a personal trainer, a holistic core restore, pelvic floor and core coach, and a menopause coach. As a menopause coach, I've had a training on nutrition through the menopause, and as a personal trainer and a running coach, I've had training on nutrition for running. So combining the two, hopefully I'm going to give you a really good overview of what can help both going through the menopause and trying to be more active and doing some running. So starting off with menopause, weight gain and changes in body shape. So many women experience changes in their body shape and weight gain during this period. And there's many different reasons, and it's not just about how much we're eating or how much activity we're doing. So I'm going to look at two reasons, which are both hormonally driven. The first are estrogen and testosterone. So they are both anabolic hormones. So they build our muscles. Estrogen and testosterone decline during menopause. So women, we do have testosterone. It's about 4 times less than after menopause than it is before menopause, and obviously less than men, but we do have it, and that's what helps us to build our muscles. The decline in these muscles creates a catabolic state. So that's where we're losing muscle, and that then changes our metabolism. So around menopause, there's around a 15% drop in your resting metabolic rate during perimenopause. And that can mean that the way that our body processes the food and our food intake can change. And rather than building our muscle, it can store it as fat. The other hormonal change is the increase in insulin resistance. So this is due to estrogen and progesterone. They're both anti-inflammatory, and as they decline, they lead to a more pro-inflammatory state, and this can increase insulin resistance. And one thing about insulin resistance is that that can lead to weight gain, especially around the middle. So that kind of gives you two ideas of ways that are hormonally driven, this weight gain and changes in body shape. So even if you're eating exactly the same and doing exactly the same amount of activity, you can still gain weight and you can still have these body changes. So what can help sort of to stop this body change or to stop it occurring as much? The first thing is all about building and maintaining our muscle. So if you don't already, you need to start lifting, you need to start doing strength training. About 2 times a week is ideal. That's going to give you the muscle building that you need and help to maintain the muscle that you have, as well as build more. If you're new to strength training, then starting off with body weight moves, so you can perfect the movements and then add weight is what you should do. And then to help improve your running strength, you should include single leg work as well. So single leg squats and kind of elevated split squats, anything, single leg deadlifts, anything like that's going to help your running. And then how heavy should you be lifting? It's really anything that challenges you. So if you're new, then body weight is maybe kind of enough of a challenge. If you've been weight training for a while, then things are feeling a bit comfortable, then that's the time that you need to start challenging yourself and adding a little bit more weight. So really it's whatever challenges you, that's going to create that change response within your muscles. Changes to diet. So it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. As I was saying, that a lot of this is hormonally driven. So rather than thinking about we need to go on a diet and we need to restrict what we eat, we need to look at foods that nourish you. And a key point about this is that you also need to fuel your runs. Now, one thing about fuel in our runs is that if we don't have enough fuel in our body, it can lead to low energy availability. And this is another reason why restricting your calories and restricting your food intake isn't the answer. So as a runner, you need fuel to fuel your training, and not eating enough can lead to low energy availability. And that is when your body doesn't have enough energy to fuel both your running and your bodily functions. So we all have a basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of energy we need just to exist. So our endocrine system, our heart health, everything, all the bodily functions, it needs a certain amount of energy. And then we need energy on top of that for everything else, for all our daily activities. So you can get this low energy availability either through insufficient energy intake, so you're just not eating enough, or you're not eating enough for the amount that you're training. So if you're starting to train for maybe a marathon or a long distance race and it's new to you, sometimes we don't quite match how much food we're taking in to cover the energy that's needed to do that. So that can sometimes lead to low energy availability, and LEA can lead to things like brittle bones. It can increase your risk for heart disease and metabolic disease. And all of this are already risk factors as we move through the menopause. So it's really important that we make sure that we're eating enough. One symptom of the low energy availability is changes in the menstrual cycle, and that means it's not always easy to spot during perimenopause because there's already lots of changes in the menstrual cycle. So changes that might be caused by LEA might not be picked up. You might just think, oh, that's just because of perimenopause. That kind of gives you an idea of why we need to make sure that we're eating enough. First thing I want to look at is about focusing on plants. So why should we focus on plants? Why should we make that the center of our plate? And that's because plants contain many, many beneficial vitamins and minerals our body needs, but it also contains fiber, and the fiber nourishes the good bacteria in our gut, and in particular, the estrobolome. So if you've heard of the microbiome, the estrobolome is a similar thing, or a part of the microbiome. It's a collection of bacteria in the gut that helps to metabolize estrogen, and they play an essential part in our health during the perimenopause to menopause period. Too much circulating estrogen can cause perimenopause symptoms. Excess estrogen can contribute to weight gain around the belly. So having a healthy estrobolome can help balance these estrogen levels and support the liver in removing any excess hormones. So that's really good for kind of managing some of the perimenopause symptoms. So yeah, estrobolome loves the fiber, so get as much as you can. And you can do that by eating the rainbow and the alphabet. So thinking about eating the rainbow, you want to eat a wide variety of fruit and veg, and thinking about trying to get every single colour every day. So your yellows, your greens, your reds, your whites, and everything in between. That will ensure that you get as much fibre and as much of the vitamins and minerals that you need. And that's what I mean by eating the alphabet, kind of getting those vitamins and minerals. I've highlighted 5 here that are very beneficial to us during perimenopause, and things that we should think about making sure that we get enough of. So the first thing is vitamin C. So vitamin C is an antioxidant. It's also used in collagen production. So collagen is what our kind of connective tissue is built on, and our skin and all that. So if you've got kind of any joint pain, if you're noticing changes in your skin, any itchiness, things like that, making sure that you've got enough things that are going to help promote the collagen and help promote the replacement of the collagen is really essential. So vitamin C, fruit, green leafy vegetables, and lots of other veggies as well. Zinc, again, is useful in collagen production. It's also an antioxidant, and it's also anti-inflammatory. So as I said, we've got that pro-inflammatory state because of the decline in estrogen and progesterone. So making sure we have enough things that are anti-inflammatory is ideal. So nuts, seeds, and chickpeas are sources of zinc, or plant-based sources of zinc. Manganese, again, collagen production and another antioxidant. Nuts, brown rice, chickpeas, and spinach. Magnesium, it's very good for all our connective tissue. So our things in our joints, our bones, our ligaments, our tendons really like magnesium. Magnesium is also an electrolyte, and it can be lost through sweat. So if you are a very sweaty runner, or you're running in a very hot environment and you're sweating a lot, you can lose a lot of magnesium through your sweat. So making sure that you have enough in your diet to replace any electrolytes that you've lost is really important. And that can be found in nuts, and it can also be found in green leafy vegetables. And then the last one I wanted to highlight was silica, and that's really important for bone density. So during menopause, we can have a loss of bone density, which can lead to osteopenia and osteoporosis. So making sure that we've got everything that we need to ensure our bones are as healthy as possible is really important. And that can be found in brown rice, avocado, green leafy vegetables, and cucumbers. And I have highlighted green leafy vegetables, not just because they're kind of quite common in those 5 vitamins and minerals that I've highlighted, but also because they contain a compound called DIM, which helps with our hormone health. It helps with hormone regulation. It prevents testosterone from being converted to estrogen. So we want to preserve as much testosterone as possible. So having this DIM, which is preventing it from being turned into estrogen, when we need to preserve as much testosterone, is really important. And then the DIM can also help to reduce abdominal fat accumulation. So if you're finding that you're accumulating lots of fat around your abdomen, then making sure that you're having green leafy vegetables is really key. And that's not just cabbage, that's things like broccoli, watercress, rocket, spinach, anything that's green and leafy. So that is your vegetables. Thinking about protein, we need to make sure that we have adequate protein alongside strength training, and that's going to help maintain and build our muscles. So runners should aim for at least 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So if you take how many kilograms you weigh and just multiply it by 1.2 to 1.6. This is a range. So 1.2 would be on your easy days, 1.6 would be when you've had your harder runs, your longer runs, or you've been strength training. Some researchers recommend 2 grams per kilogram of body weight for women going through the menopause to ensure that we've got enough protein to build our muscle. So you might want to aim for 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. But for many women, that just seems like quite a lot to start with. So aiming for that 1.2 to 1.6 to start with, and making sure you're getting that is probably a good thing to aim for. And ideally, your protein intake should be spread out over the day, aiming to get at least sort of 20 to 25 grams of protein per meal, and then also having protein in your snack as well. So that's going to help with our muscles. And then looking at plant-based sources of protein, things like tofu, tempeh, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, quinoa, and seitan, which is a wheat gluten-based protein, are all really good sources of protein. The good thing about plant-based sources of protein is that they also contain fiber, so you're getting sort of double whammy there. But also vegetables contain protein, and a lot of people kind of don't really think of vegetables as containing protein, and I've just highlighted a couple here that are quite high in protein. So a cup of broccoli, 4.6 grams of protein, 200-gram jacket potato, which is like a medium jacket potato, 5 grams of protein, 1 cup of green peas, 8 grams of protein. So you can get protein from a wide variety of sources, not just sort of the meat, the fish, the dairy. Then focusing on your carbohydrates. So we all need carbohydrates, but they are even more important if you are a runner. If you have weight changes and changes to your body, quite often people will recommend sort of going low carbs, but actually during menopause, and particularly if you're a runner, that's kind of not really what you want to do. So carbohydrates fuels our runs, but it also feeds our brains. It's what gives us our energy and keeps us functioning. So choosing complex carbohydrate sources like whole grains, legumes, beans, fruits and veggies is what you should be doing, or focusing more on those. But simple carbohydrates have their place. So your white bread, your white pasta, your sugar, they do have their place. And I'll come on to that a bit more in a bit. Runners need between 5 to 7 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight, depending on your activity level. So on an easier day, 5 grams, on a harder day 7 grams. And then thinking of your rest days, you could go below 5 grams, so maybe the 3 or 4 grams. Carbohydrate is stored in our muscles and liver in the form of glycogen, and that's what we use to fuel our running. And not having enough energy in the form of glycogen can lead to fatigue, poor performance when running, bonking, so hitting the wall if you're doing a long run, and brain fog. And as you can see, these are also kind of symptoms of menopause: the brain fog, the fatigue, the just, yeah, the fatigue. So making sure that we have enough carbs, enough of that energy that we need, can help with both our running performance and then those menopause symptoms. Then looking at fat. So fat is your friend. So again, it can be, people can think about going low fat if they're thinking about trying to lose some weight. But actually, we really need fat, and we really need fat for hormone health, because it's what helps to create our hormones, and it's also what we need for our brain health, as well as a lot of other functions in our body. So going low fat can mean that we don't have the fat available for the hormones that we need. So really healthy fat should be a part of your daily food take, and you shouldn't be afraid of fat. But it's about what kind of fat you're choosing. So choosing unsaturated fats that also contain essential nutrients such as anti-inflammatory, omega-3 and 6s. So things like your nuts and your seeds, olives, avocados, olive oils, rapeseed oil, so the cold pressed rapeseed oil, rather than the sunflower seeds, the sunflower oils, or the animal oils like lard, things like that. And even coconut oil, that is also it's a plant-based oil, but it is a saturated fat. So steering away from those is what you need to do. And then general guidelines for runners are that 20 to 25% of your energy should be from fat, and no more than 35%. So for the general population, it is recommended that you have 35% of your intake from fat. But as runners, we need a bit more carbohydrate, a bit more protein. So the guidelines for runners are a little bit less, 20 to 25%, and that should be enough to keep you going. Next, looking at hydration. So we need to keep hydration for our connective tissue health. So our connective tissues, like our tendons and our ligaments and our fascia and everything else in our body, loves estrogen, and it's what keeps the connective tissues juicy. So as our estrogen declines, our connective tissue can become stiff, it can become less flexible and less elastic, and that can lead to joint pain and aches. So if you are experiencing joint pain and aches as part of your kind of these menopause symptoms, then keeping hydrated is really, really key. So optimal water intake will help to keep the joints hydrated, it will help to get the nutrients to the tissues, and it will also help to remove any waste products from the joints, so debris, acids, metabolic byproducts. So yeah, hydration is really important for our joint health as well as our general health. Also, we need to keep hydrated for our brain health. So 80% of the brain's content is water, and it needs this water for every single chemical reaction in the brain, including energy production. If you are dehydrated, the brain is slow to function, and this can lead to fatigue, brain fog, and difficulty in concentrating. So again, those menopause symptoms. Estrogen helps brain cells to use glucose for energy, and the lower estrogen that we have during the perimenopause period can result in a drop in brain activity and up to 25% drop in energy of the brain. But this is temporary, so it's kind of a period of adjustment for the brain. It's adjusting to having lower estrogen, and then once it's adjusted, it will then go back to normal. So it's like a temporary energy crisis in the brain rather than anything permanent. But the combination of this lower estrogen, which leads to this drop in energy and drop in brain activity, combined with dehydration, can just be a really kind of bad combination that will just give you that fatigue, give you that brain fog, give you that lack of concentration. So making sure that we're hydrated can really, really help, not just for kind of our running, but also for our general health and relieving some of those menopause symptoms. Then looking at other key nutrients. So as well as the ones that I have gone through, so our magnesium, our silica, and the omega-3s and 6s, the other key ingredients or nutrients I would look at are vitamin D. So we need that for bone health. As I've mentioned, we do have sort of that decline in bone density as we have the decline in estrogen. So making sure that our bones keep as healthy as possible is what we need. Vitamin D helps the body to absorb and use calcium, so it's essential. Skin converts sunlight to vitamin D, which means in the UK, it is recommended, the NHS recommends that everybody takes a supplement between October and March because the sunlight isn't strong enough in the UK during October and March. And they also recommend that people with darker skin or people who wear clothes that cover most of the skin all year round should take a supplement all year round. So this is kind of like UK specific recommendations. We don't have the strong sun. We need a little bit of extra vitamin D. The other thing to think about is iron. This is needed for blood cell production, oxygen transportation, enzymes, hormone production, and iron deficiency can cause fatigue, lack of concentration, feeling cold, lack of energy, heart palpitations, thinning hair. And again, these are also some of those menopause symptoms. And if you're experiencing heavy periods as part of perimenopause, which a lot of women will do at certain points, then you do really need to ensure that you have enough iron in your diet to make up for the iron that you're losing through those heavy periods. If you're concerned about your iron levels, you should see a doctor for blood tests. So rather than going out and getting a supplement for iron, get your blood tested first, because too much iron can be toxic and can lead to constipation and nausea, amongst other things. So making sure you get that blood test, also to rule out other things that may be causing some of your symptoms, is really what you should do. Plant-based sources of iron, so what you should include in your daily diet: dark leafy greens again, lentils, seeds, oats, quinoa, and you should try to have vitamin C with your food, because that will help to absorb the iron, and to avoid having tea and coffee around your food, because the tannins inhibit the absorption. So that's definitely something I'm working on, because I like to have tea with my breakfast. So I'm trying to leave a nice 30-minute gap between my cup of tea and my breakfast. I think 30 minutes to an hour is kind of really, an hour is probably what you need to do to stop that from inhibiting the absorption. So now we've kind of looked at everything that we should be eating. I thought I'd look at when you should eat. So when you should eat to make the difference to your runs. So what you eat before, during, and after exercise can make a big difference to how you feel when you're running, how much energy you have, and how well your body recovers afterwards. You don't want to go into your exercise underfueled, as this can create more stress on your body, and having more stress and more production of the cortisol hormone can impact your production of estrogen. So it can mean that your hormones are even more out of balance. So really, we want to make sure everything's as balanced as possible. So less stress, the better. But thinking about 2 to 4 hours before you run, you want to eat something with protein and carbohydrate. This could be something like banana and peanut butter, dried fruit and nuts, granola, high protein yogurt, toasted nut butter. But if you're running, it could just be your normal meal. So if you run sort of mid-morning, then whatever you eat for breakfast is probably going to be a protein and carbohydrate mix. And if you don't eat anything before you go out running, so if you're an early morning runner and you tend not to eat anything, what I would suggest is that you try eating something just to give you that little bit of energy, and see if that makes a difference to how your runs are. So something really easy to digest, like a fruit yogurt, 30 minutes before you run, and then go for a run, and just see if that makes a difference to how you feel in your morning runs. So mid-run, if you're running under an hour, you don't necessarily need any extra fuel. You should have enough glycogen in your body to fuel you for that. But running for more than an hour, you need to start taking on some fuel to keep those glycogen levels topped up. So that's the energy that's stored in your muscles and your liver. We have enough for about 90 minutes to 2 hours of running. So ideally, why we say after an hour of running you need to start topping up is because you want to keep it at a nice even level. You don't want to have like a get down through your stores so much that it's going to take you a while to get you back up again. Again, that can lead to kind of when runners hit the wall during marathon training. That's sometimes to do with carbohydrates. So this is energy gels or drinks, but also can be real food. So bananas, dried fruits, nuts, malt loaf, jam sandwich. And this is where I said simple carbohydrates do have their place. This is perfect time when you should have some simple carbohydrates. So jam sandwiches, white bread jam sandwiches, or energy gels, which is just simple carbohydrates. That's going to get the carbohydrates to you as quick as possible, and that's what you need. Then post-run, you need something to help to restore your glycogen stores, so the carbohydrates, and then you need something to help repair your muscles, so the protein. Now, Dr. Stacey Sims, who is a researcher who specialises in women and exercise, she suggests that women should have something with carbs and protein within 30 minutes of exercise. And that's because post-exercise, the hormone cortisol creates more of a catabolic state. And as women in perimenopause, we're already kind of in that catabolic state, and we need to get out of that state as quickly as possible to get to that anabolic state so our muscles can start building again. So 30 minutes is kind of like what she suggests. If you can't stomach food that soon after your run, and a lot of people can't, this might be the time to try out protein powders and have your post-exercise snack in a liquid form. But if you can eat within 30 minutes, that's the best thing to do, really. And you can time it so it's just your normal meal. So if you go for a run sort of late morning, then when you get back, you just have your normal lunch. Or if you go for a run in the evening, when you get back, just have your dinner. So you can just time it around your meals. So putting it all together, what I thought I would do is kind of take all this information about how we should be kind of boosting our protein, that we need our carbs, we need our fat, we need to get our fruit and veggies, we need to get our whole grains, and look at things that people might eat, so plant-based foods that people might eat for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and then give you some ideas of swaps that you can do or little adds that you can do that's going to improve the protein content. So I thought I'd start off with breakfast, and a very typical breakfast for a lot of people would be 2 slices of white bread toast with margarine. So I'm going to focus here just mainly on the protein content. That would give you 8 grams of protein. First swap is just to change it to wholemeal bread. That's going to boost your protein a little bit. That's going to give you 11 grams of protein. The second swap would be to add peanut butter instead of the margarine. That gives you 14 grams of protein. And then my third swap would be to swap the peanut butter with mashed avocado and beans. So that's a really nice, you can just mash them all up, and then you put them in the fridge, a bit of lemon juice to stop it going brown, and then you can just pop that on your toast every morning. That's very nice. Gives you 18 grams of protein, plus you're getting more fiber, vitamins C, E, K, magnesium, zinc and iron. So you're getting more nutrients in your breakfast. The second breakfast I thought I'd look at is porridge. So not, again, a very typical porridge breakfast that people have. So porridge made with 60 grams of oats, 120 mils of oat milk, and then water, which I haven't listed. That would give you 9 grams of protein. The first swap I would do is change the oat milk to soy milk. That gives you 12 grams of protein. Then we can look at adding things to it. So adding some flaxseed, that's going to give you your omega-3s, adding some raspberries for your vitamin C, and that's going to give you 14 grams of protein. And then my third swap, which is what I usually have for breakfast, is to have the porridge with soy milk, flax seeds and raspberries, plus walnuts, plus vanilla soy yogurt. And that's going to give you 20 grams of protein, so that you're getting that 20 to 25 grams of protein per meal. Plus it's giving you your omega-3s, your vitamin C's, and the additional calcium. Now, one thing I will just say about this is you might look at this and think, oh, but that's quite a lot of calories for breakfast. So if you just have the porridge with the oat milk, that's only 285 calories. But with all the extras, that's come up to 537 calories. And you might get a bit like, oh, that's quite a lot, particularly if you're used to kind of having more restriction in your diet. But what I'd just say is that sort of the looking average, sort of average active woman who's running and doing lots of stuff, we need about 2,000 calories per day. So a little bit more, a little bit less, but just on average, about 2,000 calories a day. So 537 calories is only about a quarter of your calorie requirement. It's going to set you up really nicely for the day ahead. You've got lots of good nutrients that's going to help you to build your muscles, build your keep you healthy, get all the anti-inflammatory nutrients in you. So don't worry too much about that calorie content. Think about everything else. Think about how we're nourishing your body. Think about how we're building your body, so that you're stronger and you can kind of get through menopause strong. Then moving on to kind of lunch and dinners. So I've got 4 different examples here. The first one, I've just thought I would start off with a tomato soup with a white roll, and I've based this on the Heinz tomato soup. They do a vegan cream of tomato soup now, so I've just based it on that. 7 grams of protein. Now my first swap would be to make it a lentil and tomato soup instead, and that increases your protein level to 17 grams of protein. Then thought, well, what about if we swap the white roll for a wholemeal roll? Actually, that only gives us 1 extra gram of protein. So if you prefer white rolls, then stick with the white roll. Then swap 3 would be to add sunflower seeds. So I've got a tablespoon of sunflower seeds sprinkled on top, plus nutritional yeast, and that's given us 22 grams of protein, plus your B vitamins, zinc, iron, vitamins A and E. And for those of you who are like nutritional yeast, what's that? That is a seasoning, and you can find it in usually with the stock powders and the stock cubes in the supermarket. It's a deactivated yeast, so it doesn't have any active yeast in it, but it's a very good source of protein. You can get from 1 teaspoon 2.4 grams of protein, 2 grams of carb, and 0.3 grams of fat. So it's low fat, fairly low carb, and quite high protein for 1 teaspoon. It also, if you get the fortified version, 1 teaspoon would also give you 75% of the zinc that you need each day. So it's a useful seasoning to have. It's kind of a little bit cheesy. It's kind of got a savoury taste, and you can sprinkle it on soups and salads and stews and whatever you fancy. So it's definitely worth giving that a go. Next thing I thought I would look at is spaghetti with a marinara sauce. So this is just based on white spaghetti. If you were to change to wholemeal spaghetti or like a pea spaghetti, that would boost the protein content. But I thought I'd stick with the white spaghetti, so it's what most people have, and a marinara sauce, so tomato and basil sauce. For that, you'd get 14 grams of protein. First swap was to add some lentils into that marinara sauce, and that boosts the protein straight away up to 32 grams. Then I thought, well, what about if we swap the lentils to a soy mint? So this is based on TVP, which is a dehydrated soy mince, which you just rehydrate. That gives you 36 grams of protein. So I've just added a quarter of a cup of the TVP. It brings the carbs down, it brings the fat down a bit, because the TVP is high protein, but relatively low in carbs and fat. Then my final swap would be to have that spaghetti with the marinara and soy mint sauce, but add a leafy green vegetable to it. So you get the 39 grams of protein, plus you get your fibers, your irons, your vitamins, your ACE vitamins, your K, your magnesium and zincs. Then my third lunch or dinner would be a bean chili with rice. So this is a white rice and a chili with 2 different types of beans. That gives you 18 grams of protein, so that's fairly good straight away. My first swap would be to swap the rice to quinoa, and that would give you 23 grams of protein. Now, you could change it to maybe a wholemeal, whole grain rice instead, or even a jack and potato. So that would also boost the protein content there. The second swap I've done is to add lentils to the bean chili. That brings you up to 32 grams of protein. And again, if you didn't want to have the quinoa, you wanted to stick with the white rice, that would bring, what would that be? That would be 27 grams of protein. So it's kind of like working out what you prefer and what's going to give you what you prefer to do, like protein wise. And then my third swap would be to have that bean and lentil chili with quinoa, add a corn on the cob, add some green salad. You then get 38 grams of protein. You get all your fibers, your iron, vitamins, your ACE vitamins, K, magnesium, and zinc. So lots more nutrients by just doing that. Now, my final look at lunch or dinner would be to have a stir fry. So stir fry with tofu and vegetables, and I've just chosen pak choy, mushrooms and broccoli with rice. That gives you 28 grams of protein. Tofu is very high in protein, so it's quite a good choice to have with the stir fry. I thought, well, what about if we swap the noodles for rice? That has a slightly higher protein content, 31 grams of protein. And then what about if we add some edamame beans? So edamame beans are the green beans, you can buy them frozen. Add half a cup of those in, and we've kind of really boosted the protein to 41 grams there. And then my final one was, oh, what about adding some cashew nuts and sesame seeds? That doesn't do a huge amount to the protein level, but it does give you a little bit more iron, magnesium, and zinc. But to be honest, those iron, magnesium, and zinc is really a lot of that comes from the tofu and the vegetables. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it adds that little bit more. So that kind of gives you an idea about all the nutrients. And then I'll just finish with about how I can help you. So I have a running through the Menopause 8-week program starting in September. I do one-to-one coaching, and that's in person. That can be in person or online. I do online coaching without the one-to-one aspect. So that's a program that you get sent, and I kind of coach you online, but we don't have sessions together. I do online group classes. My strong class, I do that on Fridays, and then I have group runs in WODSTEM. And then finally, I would like to offer you a kind of a 15-minute chat if you're interested in kind of really getting down onto the macros of how much protein, carbs, and fat you should have individually. I can do a little kind of have a 15-minute chat with you, and we can work that out together, and then you can kind of use that to plan your meals. So finally, how do you get in touch with me? So coachnicola.com, hello@coachnicola.com. My Instagram is Coach Nicola, and my Facebook is Coach Nicola UK. So I will stop there, and if you have any questions, please do contact me.